In less than 30 minutes, we are going to create a beautifully unique landing page design from scratch using the Fluid Engine Page Builder. Fluid Engine is the new grid-based drag and drop editor used for designing Squarespace pages. The UX is honestly a dream, allowing you to drag and snap any content, be it text, images, or buttons, on a simple grid system. We start the tutorial by planning our long scrolling landing page, adding the required page sections, then integrating our content. We then move on to refining the color scheme, spicing up the page with fun design elements, and finally end with integrating a header navigation that smooth scrolls to the page sections. But before we get going, there's one important item to note. Fluid Engine is currently only available with Squarespace 7.1 and English sites. If you have an older Squarespace 7.0 site, check out the link below on how to migrate to the new builder. And if you're new to Squarespace, use the coupon OPL10 to get 10% off your first website or domain purchase. A good approach before diving deep into the build is to plan out the long scrolling landing page sections. For this tutorial, I've created a fictitious artisanal soap business called Bow Soap. Our landing page objective is to showcase and sell our 3 new soap packs, including a bundle comprising of all 3. So the golden question we need to answer is, using our landing page content, what would my soap-loving landing page visitor need to see and read to be persuaded to use their credit card? Stepping into their shoes, I think they'd want to be introduced with the range. We answer this with a landing page intro. Next, I think it's obvious they'd like to see high-quality images of the soap. We answer this with a comprehensive product section. Then any unanswered questions can be tackled with a clean FAQ section at the bottom of the page. Now finally, to strengthen the landing page, we can integrate previous customer testimonials. And to really help sell these soaps, these testimonials will be handpicked to the ones that further highlight soap features. But more on that further in the tutorial. Before we get deep into adding landing page sections, I just want to explain the icons to the top right. So on the top right, you'll see a toggle between desktop view and mobile view. One of the biggest highlights of Fluid Engine is the ability to optimize mobile view with a very different layout than desktop view. I'm going to go deep into optimizing for mobile later in the tutorial. To the right of that is site styles, where we can edit fonts, colors, animations, and spacing. Later on in the tutorial, you'll see just how easy it is to change the landing page background colors. So we're going to start by adding loose sections just as placeholders to get a feel of the landing page. So we start off by hitting the add section button. We have an option with a whole bunch of pre-designed layouts. They're beautiful, they're animated, they're well thought out by the Squarespace team, but all we need is to start with an intro. So I want an image on the left to start off with soaps, and I like this one with a call to action button just below a little bit of intro copy. So we're going to worry about colors, spacing, all the fine tuning towards the end. But next, I want testimonials. This is to tie in with our checklist that we started at the beginning of the tutorial. And below that, we want to have products. There's 2 things I want to point out at this point in the tutorial is that even though we want products, it doesn't mean you have to use the product subcategory of the sections. Is that you can start with any design. And I actually want to use a design which has, the big images on the right, and I will customize it. Anything is movable within the Fluid Engine editor. So just remember you have that peace of mind where anything can be dragged and snapped around to the grid. The second thing I want to point out is that there are certain types of content where you add content once and you can switch between layouts. So with your team section here is that you could add your members of your team and then you can switch between these different layouts within the style options and it will retain the same people. So let's go insert and the about, and I want to add this as my first product. So what I really like in landing pages is when we have a Z layout. So it's text on the left, image on the right. Then the next section is going to have image on the left, text on the right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this whole section by hitting the duplicate button here. As you can see here, we have the 2 sections below each other, and I'm going to duplicate it one more time. But now in the middle option is I'm going to drag them. So as you can see, the Fluid Engine editor appears, and I can just drag the text here, and I can just drag the text here. Remember, this is all placeholder. It doesn't have to be in line here, but this is exactly how I want our Z pattern to read within our soap products. Then below that, we're going to have the product special, and it's going to have our buy 2 packs and get 1 free. So now I want to add a section with our 3 for 2 special, And I'm simply going to add a blank section because I've got a unique idea for here, there, and I want to have the products over here. So I'm just going to add a rough product block. There it is over here. And I'm going to drag it just in the middle, and we're going to optimize that later. And then below this, I'd like to add an FAQ section. So we're going to go down to About, and as you can see the FAQs here, this is an accordion layout where you click the arrow and it goes down. These are standard, all listed. Here's our 3-column. But what I really like is I really like this minimal layout with FAQs on the left. So that's our FAQs over there. And then just to end things off, I'm going to have a footer, and it's just a standard footer where I'm going to have the details, with the contact details and the operating hours and then the social channels. So let's just take a look at it all. So it's already looking really clean. We've got our intro of the brand. We've got our testimonials for our social proof. It'll highlight a few of the features of the product within our testimonials. We've got big images to showcase our product, within a Z pattern. That's going to look great. It's going to be easy on the eyes. And we've got our 3 for 2 special. And then we've got some FAQs for any doubts the visitor might have. So it's already looking good, but now it's time to integrate real content. And just a reminder in this point is we're going to start by integrating our product imagery and content, and then we're going to optimize with adding color and flavor and a few fancy elements. So kicking things off on the landing page, we want our best image of our product. So we click on our image placeholder, we hit the edit icon, and now we replace this image with one of our own. Squarespace now optimizes the images after it's been uploaded, and we go and change the design tab. And a little trick is that if it's not filled, on default, you hit the fit and you go back to fill, and it can do it for you. So let's click on to the right, and we're going to go replace the intro text. You simply click in the block, you highlight all, you paste in your text, and then let's do it for the next section. And to edit the button, we click in the button, and then we hit the edit text. We're going to change the link to the button later, but this is going to say browse soap. And then next to it, I actually want to add a text block that says why. Why Bow Soap? And I'm going to explain that all in a bit. But basically right now, we're going to add a little text item. We're going to drag it here into the grid, and we're going to say why Bow Soap? ? We're going to highlight all the text. We're going to center it. And then in the block itself, we're going to center it vertically so it matches the button. And then our button seems a bit cramped. So all we do is we simply drag it out. And there it is, fitting perfectly. So we're going to do spacing and alignments and all that a bit later on. But this is our intro, which is great. A bit later in the tutorial, I'm going to show you how we can drag a few elements. But let's go to the next section. So I'm big on testimonials, highlighting features about the product. So you must handpick your best testimonials. These are the best 3. And I'm just going to show you a good example of what would be great testimonials and how we can make features stand out. So for Keith here, we're going to talk about, it's perfect for his sensitive skin and it doesn't dry him out. So we're going to go, doesn't dry me out. And then we're going to highlight that text. We're going to hit bold. For Monet here, she's going to talk about the shampoo bar. So also a good tip is that we're going to mix up the products within our testimonials. So she talks about it lathers really well. So I'm going to bold that. And then lastly for Channing, she talks about, the odor. She talks about how it smells. So we're going to put that in here, paste all the text, and it just says it smells amazing. So you must just remember that when people are arriving on the landing page, especially on mobile, they're skimming a lot. And let me hit bold here. And what they do is they see a lot of text and a lot of testimonials. And what do? They skim. And it says, doesn't dry me out, lathers really well, it smells amazing. This is a good mix. You're talking about the shampoo bar here. We're talking about the normal soap. I just love the brand name. There's a lot going on here for just 3 testimonials. So it's good to handpick them and mix it up. Next up is going to be our first product. And this is going to be our home spa. So I'm going to go click in the title, paste in home spa. Remember, you can drag and it'll adjust. This one spans the width of the actual text block. And then over here, I'm going to delete this. I'm going to delete the line. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add the product. So in the Squarespace inventory, I already added our products. This has a full commerce shopping cart integration, but I'm just going to show you. So we insert a product, and now it's got a placeholder. We hit edit. we search the product, and this is our spa item. There's our home spa pack, and I want to customize the design. I don't want the image because I want the image on the right. I want the title, I want the price, I want the description, and I want the add to cart button. So we toggle all those view options. And then on the right, we're going to add an image for the spa pack. So I'm going to replace this, upload a file, and we're going to go to spa, and this is our featured image. Just like earlier, if you need the image to fill the full block, a little tip is just to go click on fit and then back into fill. Excellent stuff. So next up, we've got our shampoo bar. So I'm just going to click here and fast forward the same steps as before. Moving on to our third bar, which is going to be the conditioner bar. We highlight all the text, we put in conditioner. Excellent. Let's take a look at the 3 products. Starting with the home spa, image to the right, Z pattern in place, shampoo, ending with a conditioner. So for our combo special, I had a different idea where I wanted the product checkout to the right, and I wanted an image display on the left, maybe 3 images. So I'm going to get rid of the image here by toggling the on and off and the visibility, and I'm going to keep that to the right, and I'm going to drag it over here. To increase more grids, you simply drag down the grid like this. The other option to do in sections is you can manually add more rows by doing that, going back and forward. So I'm going to just drag it down a little bit, take this bar, and I'm actually going to give it a slight heading. So I'm going to say a 3 for 2 pack special. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a text block, put in the text, and I'm going to give that a heading 2. Nice and big, drag the corner, and I'm going to drag this up, and I'm going to bring that out, and I'm going to drag this whole block. We can adjust all the fine tuning later, but let's add images. So you're going to add a block, we can add an image, and that's just going to start off with our main. Great, so I'm going to put that there, but now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another image, and we're going to fine tune it later, but let's put everything just in place for now. You'll notice now there's overlapping images. If you would like to reorder, you simply click on the back image, you highlight the move forward. This is also shift and up, and you can see it's just a breeze to reorder. But I want a third image, so now we add a block, we add another image, and I'm going to repeat the process. And again, just dragging it into place, which we'll fine tune later. Finishing things off, we're going to edit the FAQ. Just say SOAP FAQs. I'm not going to add these, but this is how the accordion works, and then the foot is pretty standard. So looking at the page as a whole, everything's in place. It looks great, but now we want to add a little bit of color. First thing we're going to do is head over to the Site Styles tab, and we're going to head over to Colors. So this is our current palette. I'd like to edit this palette. I'm after more earthy, natural tones that'll match a soap brand. I quite like the orange here, the little bit of brown, and this little color here. So now you've gone through everything, and you've selected your palette. Now you go back to Colors, and you'll notice this section has the theme, which is lightest 1. So if we were to go and change this section to dark 1, it would change the background to this scheme assigned to here. So now what I want to do is I want to change the background color on everything with lightest 1 to a slightly more earthy light brown. So I'm going to go to the theme, lightest 1. I'm going to hit edit. I'm going to scroll down to section background, and I'm going to enter in my hex color value to change the color. And as you can see, as you scroll down now, is that the whole background has changed to this creamy, earthy color. So now what I want to do is I want to have alternative section backgrounds, and I want a slightly more brown color. So I'm going to go back to Colors, and under light 1, if you're asking now, why didn't I choose light 2? You can see that light 1 has a dark text and a light background. This has an orange text. So if I was to go in and assign sections with lightest 2, it would make all the text orange, which is not what I'm after. So what I'm going to do is go into light 1. I'm going to edit light 1. I'm going to go to section background, colors, and I'm going to put in my hex value. You won't notice the difference now, but when I go into the page and once it saves, and I go to the actual section I'm after, and I scroll down and I hover over it, I edit the section, I go to colors, and now I change the theme from lightest 1 to light 1. You'll notice that it changes the background color to the custom text color I just put in there. So if we're looking at the page, you can see here, now we have alternative background colors, which is much easier to follow. So we'll get into fine tuning that all later, but that is how customizing our background colors. Color scheme is really starting to bring this page to life and make the design feel like it's tailored for a soap brand. But I'm thinking to add a little bit more excitement, why don't we add some truly unique scrolling text? So just above the products, I'd like to introduce them with a fun animation of text scrolling from right to left. So hitting add section, as you can see, there's a whole bunch of different options depending where. What we're going to do is go to the services section, and I really like this bended text. Here it's come in, we don't want the image, we're going to hit delete, and we're going to delete this text, and we're going to delete the button. And what we're going to do now is change the text just to say meet our soaps. So you simply click on the text, you hit the edit icon, and under the text option, you paste in your text, and there it is. So we want to reduce the height of the spacing here, so we simply just drag in. There we go. So introducing the soaps, here we go with our lovely scrolling text. So another idea I had is just above the 3 for 2 pack special, why don't we include a multi-directional scrolling text, which included the ingredients of our soap bars. So here we go with 3 lines. I'm thinking 3 is too much, so we just click our line here and we hit delete. And on the opening line, we click on the line and we hit the edit icon. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste in our ingredients. As you can see here, we got rosemary, neroli, lemongrass, looks great. I'm going to do the same thing for the row below. Click on the line, hit edit, under the content, paste it in, and now we have scrolling text, which looks great. So again, we can just bring in the lines here, and because we have a different color background option now, is that I can actually mix up the colors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this background here, this 342 special. I'm going to edit the section, and I'm going to change the background color to the lightest one. And as you can see now, it brings a little bit more contrast to the section below and the section below that. And now below this, let's add a special. Let's remind everyone that it's a 3 for 2 special. So if you go to products, you'll see there's a special with a 25% off. I don't need the button here. I'm going to hit delete. And over here, I'm just going to paste in buy 9 bars for $20. And now to continue with our alternative background theme. So on FAQs, we edit the section and we change the background to the light one. Okay, the page colors are looking great, but let's fine tune a few things. So the first thing I'm thinking is in the intro, I'd love to overlap the text over the image. So first of all, we take our image, we simply drag it, snap it to the grid closer to the middle. And what's so great about Fluid Engine is you can highlight multiple bits of text and just drag them all in one go. And as you can see now, we get that lovely, unique overlapping effect, which is quite difficult to achieve in other website builders. Leaning into our unique selling proposition is a true artisanal soap. So I want to highlight the text, hit bold, and now it stands out as you scroll. So when you arrive for the first time, the first thing you're going to be attracted to is the bold text. You're going to click browse soaps, you're going to scroll down. After this fine-tuning step, we're going to add a header navigation that scrolls down, and then we're going to focus on the mobile. So looking at all the bold elements within the testimonials, it looks great. Love our bended scrolling text. And just looking at our products, you know, before anyone would add to cart, we'd maybe want to see another image. So I'm going to quickly add another 3 images to this next section. So we want to add an image block. So on the top left, you add block, we add image. We click the plus, we upload the file, and we go to our spa, and we've got the featured image. Now we want the spa flat. So once it uploads, we're going to edit the file, and we're going to create a round shape, just like that. And to make it bigger, we're going to drag it bigger, and we're simply going to drag it into place, and we're going to have a great, unique, overlapping image against the big background with the round image to the left. And I'm just going to quickly repeat the same for the next 2. As you can see, I've just added a round image over here overlapping on the bigger image, and I've done the same for the conditioner. So one thing that's bugging me are these little gaps over here. So I'd like to make it even more unique design by taking this background image and actually just sliding it a little bit wider, snapping it to the wider grid spacing. Same goes for this on the shampoo section. Let's snap it in there, and then the conditioner, we're going to do exactly the same. Another thing that's been bugging me is the spacing here and the spacing here above is bigger than the shampoo section. You can see it's sort of similar to the home spa. So how do we extend the height of the section? So we hover over the section and we just simply drag down a few more bars. Now on the left, we simply click the big image and we drag it down into place. We readjust the round image. And then with shampoo, we're going to bring it down so we've got better spacing over here. Yeah, already looking much better. So going down to our 3 for 2 pack special, I want to keep the round aesthetic. So let's make these all round quick. So you hit edit, design, shape. Let's make it on 1 let's make it round. The center one, we can mix it up. Let's choose a different shape and we'll go to shapes and we'll go to 3 to 2. We'll make it wider like that. And let's make it a lot bigger. And then for our corner image, we can just be consistent with the bottom right and we can just make the shape a normal round. So let's see how it looks like from far. 3 for 2 looks good. 3 images. So the page is looking solid, but next up I want to add a navigation at the top that smooth scrolls down to the sections. And I also want to add a call to action button that can send us straight down to buy soap. So we're going to hit edit header. And what we're going to do is go to elements and we're going to add the button. The button itself is going to be called buy soap. And the link is going to be hashtag soap, which I'm going to explain in a bit. So when we link to an anchor point within our landing page, we use a hashtag. And then our anchor point needs to be named the same as our link. So we've got there our button. We go back and we're going to go click here. And now we're going to add an anchor point to just above the soaps. So as you can see here, our anchor point would need to be around about here. And what we do now is we add a block and we add a code snippet. And in the code snippet, when we hit edit, is we add the anchor points. And the anchor point simply opens up with an A and we have name and there it is with soap. And we close the anchor point. So I'm going to share this within the article. It's going to be linked below this video. But all you need to know is that anything that's opened up, like an A, needs to be closed again. And once you've done this, you can call yourself a coder. So we're going to drag this little bit around about here, just so it's above the anchor point. And let's test it out. So once you hit done, you hit save. And now when viewing the site and you hit buy soap, it scrolls us down to the soap. Brilliant. So now I want to add a couple more points just to make it more user-friendly. And now we're going to add a custom navigation. So on the left, you're going to add, on the main navigation, you're going to scroll down to link. And in your link, we're going to add a link to testimonials. So there it is. And then again, to link to the anchor, we use the hashtag. And we're going to say testimonials. We hit save. We're going to repeat the same for FAQs. FAQs, and we're going to link to hashtag FAQ. We're going to hit save, and then we're going to hit a last one, which is just to make it extra ultra clear that someone can browse our products. We're just going to say products, and that's going to link again to soap. So we hit save. Remember, so we got our links here, and to reorder these in the header, we just drag them around. So the first one I want is testimonials because that's the next section you would scroll to. So that's testimonials over here. And then we're going to say products and then again FAQ. So to link up, where would soaps go? The button. So we're going to hit edit here. We're going to browse soap. And we're going to hit edit. Where's it going to link? Hashtag soap. And then this link over here, why, is I wanted the customers to tell you why. So I was thinking we could highlight this text. We hit link. And that basically is going to go to hashtag testimonials. And once we hit apply, it's going to create a link there for us. So now what's outstanding is just to add anchor points for testimonials and for FAQs. So we're going to scroll down and testimonials, you'd like to go here. So we're going to add a block. We're going to go to code. And in the code, we're going to edit the code and we're going to paste in an anchor link for testimonials. So you can see here, scrolling, that's where we're going to put the anchor link. And let's do the last one for FAQs. Where would our FAQs little anchor code go? We go to code and we are going to edit the code. and we're going to paste in for name FAQ. Cool, happy with that. Let's take it all for a spin. So testimonials should scroll us down there. Let's take it for a spin. Testimonials does perfectly. Product should take us to the soaps. FAQs down to the footer, and our button to the soap section, and just double checking browse soaps. Perfect. And now Y should take us to testimonials. Great stuff. So our next step is our final step, and that is to optimize for mobile. So when we're back into our editor, you'll notice the layout here is, big image on the left, and there's alongside overlapping text to the right. So this isn't going to always fly on mobile. There's not enough real estate in the width of the mobile device. So when clicking on the mobile view, you'll notice a lot of the imagery doesn't sit perfectly flush with the width, and the ordering's a little bit off. So what I'd like is the artisanal soap special to be at the top. So I'm going to drag that to the top, image down. Look how easy it is to snap to the grid. And this is fine, but I want this button to be the full width of the mobile device. You just drag it out, drag to the top. Look how easy it is. You can just scroll, move it up and down. Perfect. So just want to take note here, look at desktop view, completely unchanged, and mobile view has its own assigned style. So let's scroll down. Testimonials are looking great. I'd probably move the code up here. That's our code block. And then I would reduce the height. Wonderful. Meet our soap. Same thing goes here. Let's reduce the height. You can see how fast this works. Scrolling down, looks good. There's our scrolling text. 3 for 2 special. It's looking great. Let's maybe make this a bit bigger. Let's take this image, make it bigger there. Let's take this image and make it bigger here. And then we can extend the height of this block and bring this all down. Wonderful. By 9 bars, FAQs at the top. Again, our code, I'm going to bring that up. It's FAQ, I'm going to bring these here. So let's just take one more look at mobile. So as you scroll down, it's got browse soaps. That's going to take you down all the way to there. We've got our shampoo, we've got our conditioner. Mobile view is looking great. So let's scroll back and let's take one last spin of the site. In summary, we have our header that smooth scrolls down to our sections. We have a call to action button at the top that's strong that says buy soap. Our intro section has overlapping text. We say browse soaps, we say why, that takes you down to the testimonials. The storytelling and natural flow of the landing page is strong. Good white space, good breathing room, unique bended scrolling text makes the page our own. It looks different than all the other builders out there. We've got overlapping images. We've got a Z pattern. You carry on scrolling down and we've got our ingredients, which are done in 2 alternative scrolling texts. And then we have our 3 for 2 special, which is our, buy 2, get 1 free. And we've emphasized here in a different way to say buy 9 bars for $20, which is 3 packs of 3. We've got our accordion that scrolls down, our soap FAQs, and it ends with our footer. Okay, that's a full landing page build from scratch using the new Fluid Engine editor by Squarespace. What a breeze to create a truly unique design and stand out amongst the competition. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial and the bonus landing page lessons. Remember, if you're new to Squarespace, use the coupon OPL10 to get 10% off your first website or domain purchase.